Hello everyone. I want to talk about some plotting stuff and show a couple more examples of loops with if statements to hopefully help you on the homework a little bit, particularly the chaos game part of it. And so I'll start by showing you a way of doing the stuff with matplotlib, okay? So the first example I'll do is I'm just going to plot a bunch of points along the line y equals x, okay? And you've done this sort of thing before, but I want to show more about how to do this in a loop. So if I were to say something, for example, for I in range 100, and then I said plt.scatter, I'll use the same coordinate for the x and the y because x is equal to y. There's a bunch of other options I can use, but I'll just leave it at that for now. And now when I hit the play button, it says figures, now rendering the figures plot. So I'm using spider here. And so there we got a bunch of points on the line y equals x. Now what it's doing is cycling through these colors. So you see these repeated colors every so often. If I wanted to fix all the colors at a particular color, then I could say something like, B, C equals B for blue. Now you see they're all blue. Or I could say G for green, right? I could also vary the size. I could say S is equal to, let's say, I over 40. So that's the size of the dot. And so now you see the dots get larger as this gets bigger. Actually, let's try I over 10 there. All right, so we see the dots get larger as X and Y get bigger. So that's one way to do it. But let me show a more interesting example. So, or maybe I'll keep that first example there. I'll comment it out, but let's do another example, which is a random walk. So-called random walk. And so the rules here are, I'm going to start at x equals 0, y equals 0. And then I'm going to move either left, right, up, or down. So these are so I'll show you how to make random decisions like you would with the chaos game. And so I'll go through some number of iterations. So I'll say maybe in range, let's say 1,000 will do. And the first thing I'll do is I'll plot, okay, what are my current x and y coordinates? So I'm going to have variables that get updated. They're initialized outside of the loop. So I say x equals 0, y equals 0 here. But I can change them inside a loop, and I can access them inside a loop. So I'll do what I did before. Maybe I'll say, I over 50 or something. Just so that you can see over time what they are, because the size of them will vary. Whoops, sorry, I probably wanted to say x for the x coordinate, y for the y coordinate, and then the size will be the iteration number over 50 perhaps. We'll try that. Okay, but now I need to make a random choice of where to go next. So what I should do is I'm going to say make a variable called choice, which I'll say mp.random.randint for. So there are other libraries in Python that can choose random numbers, but I'm going to use NumPy for now. It's got a lot of great functionality. Let me show you in here what this actually does. So if I were to say mp.random.rand4, oops, sorry, I meant to say randint4. That will give me a number between 0 and 3, actually. So 0, 1, 2, 3. I've gotten those all at different times. And so now what I can do is use if statements and else if statements. One way to do it. I can say, okay, well, if the choice is 0, maybe that's when I decide to move left. This is arbitrary, but I'll say, okay, 0 is moving left. So as long as I have one if statement for every option. So I'll say, okay, if the choice is 0, then I'm going to subtract 1. Okay, but otherwise, if that's false, then maybe I'll move to the right. So if that's false, but the choice happens to be 1, then I'll say x plus equals 1. Otherwise, if both of those were false, but the choice happened to be 2, well then maybe I'll move down. So I'll say y minus equals 1. And then because I did random.randint4, there's really only one other choice, which is 3. It's either going to be 0, 1, 2, or 3. I could say elif choice is equal 3, or I could just say else, because that's the only other option. And so by process of elimination, the only other thing I can do is move up by 1. Right? So every time in this loop, I'm going to plot where I'm at, and then I'm going to make a random choice about where to move next. Let's see what kind of patterns we get doing that. So I run this, it's doing its thing, and I get this interesting pattern here. So actually I repeated some locations, so this thing walked on top of itself, but yeah, so there we go. We get these interesting little patterns here. Random walks on a grid. Cool. So yeah, you could do similar things with a chaos game. That one got a little bit further along there. Yeah, you could do similar things with a chaos game. But I thought I would give you an example of this. And that would be a good start. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions on that. And enjoy.